The man who used to be my father gave my son a rock in an iPhone box and said, "Only good boys get toys." Everyone laughed. 30 minutes later, the room went silent when I did this. Hey everyone. Before we kick off today's video, I've got a favor to ask. We've noticed our channel isn't getting as much love lately, and subscribing is one of the easiest ways you can help us out. It's quick, free, and it means we can keep bringing you awesome content. Your support really means a lot, so let's work together to keep this channel growing. Thanks a bunch. Now, let's dive into the video. Hey, go ahead and open it, buddy. Dad's voice was all cheerful and playful as he slid this white apple box across the table towards my son Max. The whole living room went dead silent, and every eye was glued to that box like it was holding some kind of magical artifact. Max was grinning ear to ear, his little fingers shaking just a bit as he started tearing off the wrapping paper. "Is it really an iPhone?" he whispered, his 9-year-old voice tinged with pure wonder. "Open it and see," Dad said, smirking at me over his coffee mug. "I really should have known." Max carefully lifted the lid, his smile freezing in place. Inside that pristine white iPhone box was just a jagged rock. Yeah, just a rock. A dirty, dumb rock, like the kind you'd find at the edge of someone's driveway. Max blinked at it, completely puzzled. "Is this a joke?" he asked. Dad leaned back in his chair, bursting into laughter that filled the whole room. "Well," he said, taking a sip of his coffee like the punchline had just landed perfectly, "only good boys get toys, right, Max?" For a moment, the room was completely still, then it erupted with laughter. My sister laughed so hard she had to wipe her eyes with a napkin, and my brother-in-law nearly snorted his drink. Even my own mom shook her head, chuckling. But I didn't laugh, and neither did Max. He just stared at that rock and, little by little, I saw it hit him, the heat in his cheeks, his shoulders slumping. Quietly, he pushed the box away, biting his lip and looking right at me. I knew that look. It was the same look I used to have when I was his age, when Dad pulled these stunts on me, too. "Oh, lighten up," Dad waved a hand, pretending to ease up. "It's just a little fun." "Yeah, lighten up," my sister chimed in, nudging Max's shoulder with a laugh that didn't quite reach her eyes. "It's not like that's your real present." My jaw tightened because there was no real present. This was it, the big gesture, a rock in an iPhone box, with a punchline at a kid's expense. "Wow," I said quietly, "you really outdid yourself this time." Dad just shrugged, like this was all perfectly normal. "Maybe next year he'll learn some respect, then we'll see about the iPhone, huh?" That was it. In that moment, something shifted inside me. I glanced at Max again, head down, eyes wet but holding back tears, and I felt something boiling deep inside, something that had been building for years. No more. I looked around at my smug dad, at the relatives giggling behind their wine glasses, at the people who thought humiliating a kid was quality entertainment. They didn't know what was coming, but they definitely would soon, and 30 minutes later, they weren't laughing anymore. I wish I could say this was new, that my father humiliating my child was some weird one-off thing. But no, this was classic Dad, same old routine, just a new generation. See, growing up, he never hit me. He was too proud for that. His brand of torment came dressed in sarcasm, posing as fatherly wisdom, and shame wrapped up in tradition, with love that always had a price. "You're not like your brother," he'd say when I brought home a B instead of an A. "He's sharp, and you, well, you try. That's worth something." I spent years trying to win his approval. Got a scholarship, juggled 3 jobs, built a company from nothing, and still, he called me lucky instead of smart, decent instead of driven. Every Christmas, every birthday, every family gathering was a reminder that no matter what I did, I was still the family disappointment. And having Max should have changed things. But it didn't. Dad barely acknowledged him, never remembered his birthday, never asked about school. When he did talk to him, it was always some backhanded remark. "Don't you think it's time to toughen him up?" he said once when Max cried over a scraped knee. "You cuddle him too much." Cuddle? I was raising my son not to turn into him, and apparently, that was a crime. So when he handed Max a rock in an iPhone box and laughed right in his face, something inside me just snapped. "You know," I said, standing up slowly, "it's funny, because you've spent your whole life convincing people you're the strong one, the patriarch, the backbone of this family. But really, all you've ever been is a coward in a cardigan." The laughter stopped. My mom's eyes went wide, my sister choked on her wine, and Dad leaned back in his chair, squinting at me like I was some kid throwing a tantrum. "Watch your mouth," he said. "No, you watch yours," I shot back, stepping forward. "You just humiliated my son in front of everyone, and for what? A laugh? A little moment of control to feel like a man again? I was joking, for God's sake, he tried to brush it off. You weren't joking. You were performing, like always. You do this every time you find someone weaker, someone younger, someone who trusts you, and you crush them with a smile on your face. Max was just sitting there, super quiet, holding onto his chair like it was the only thing keeping him afloat. I glanced at him and then turned back to face everyone. You all saw it, I said. Every one of you laughed. The room was dead silent. I smiled, but trust me, it wasn't a nice one. You know what's actually funny? I brought him a real iPhone. It's out in the car. I figured I'd let Dad have his moment, so I waited. The room was full of gasps. Yep, I was gonna let him give it to Max. Thought maybe he'd finally act like a granddad. I turned to my sister. But you laughed, Emily. Like it was some stand-up comedy. You, the therapist. You should have known better. Her husband shifted around, trying to stay out of it as usual, like he was Switzerland or something. But tonight, even he couldn't escape the awkwardness. My mom tried to step in. Can we not do this now? It's Max's birthday. Exactly, I fired back, and you all ruined it. I stormed out, not even bothering with my coat, went to the car, and grabbed the real iPhone box. I walked back in and handed it to Max. This is for you, from me, because you're awesome. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. He looked up, barely holding it together. Thanks, Dad, he said, voice cracking, and honestly, I almost lost it right there. Then I faced everyone again. You had your fun. Now it's my turn. I pulled an envelope from my pocket and tossed it on the table. What's this? Dad asked, looking at it like it was gonna explode. It's the updated power of attorney paperwork, I said. You're off it now. What are you talking about? He shot back. I laid it all out, the house you co-signed but never paid a cent for? The accounts you were supposedly helping manage for Max's college? It's over. My sister's husband turned to her, looking confused. What accounts? Her face went pale, panic flashing in her eyes. Yeah, I said, someone should have clued you in. Guess who's been sneaking into the family trust? Emily snapped, be quiet, but I wasn't having it. No, you be quiet. The room wasn't laughing anymore. I wasn't done. Dad's hand was hovering over the envelope like it was radioactive. You're making a mistake, he managed to say, barely keeping it together. This isn't how families solve things. No, I said, ice in my voice, this is how real men fix things when their family treats their kid like trash. I turned to Emily again. You want to talk about that emergency withdrawal from Max's college fund? You told the bank you had my go-ahead. She froze. I needed it for Ellie's therapy. No, you needed it for your Bali yoga retreat, I shot back. You posted it all over Instagram. Healing my inner child on the beach. Cute, but paid for with my kid's education. Her husband jumped up. Wait, you took money from Max's account? She tried to speak, but I cut her off. $2,200, gone. You forged my signature, claimed it was approved. I have the bank report. The teller even remembered you. You're overreacting, she said, voice shaky. It's not like I drained it. You stole from my kid, I snapped. Don't stand there acting like it was a mix-up. Now Mom tried to step in, tears ready to go. This is getting out of hand. No, Mom, I corrected. What's out of hand is Dad using Max's social security number to open credit lines since he was 5. You could hear a pin drop. Even Emily sat down. Mom looked at Dad. What is he talking about? I dropped a folder on the table. 3 credit cards, all maxed, all opened under Max's name with his SSN and your address. Dad went ghost pale. You can't prove that, he mumbled. Already did, I said. The bank was very helpful when they found out a minor's identity was being used. You're going to get a letter soon, might want to clear your schedule, I told him. I raised you, he said, his voice shaking. And I trusted you, I shot back. But you used my son to save your lousy credit score, playing the perfect granddad while financially strangling a 9-year-old. Mom sat back down, looking defeated. You've gone too far, she said. No, I replied, my voice like steel, you all did. Years of silent dinners where I was the joke, years of not being as smart as Emily or as charming as Dad, paying for gifts you took credit for, covering tuition for a niece who trashed me behind my back, paying your taxes so you could cruise around the world. I turned to everyone, I did it all, not because you deserved it, but in the hope you'd see me, see Max, and think maybe he could be better than we were. But instead, you dragged him into the same toxic mess I grew up in. Dad finally lost it, yelling, "You selfish, bitter man. You want to tear this family apart because of." So, there I was, staring at this ridiculous rock in a box, and I just couldn't help but laugh. It was a mess, really feral looking, and definitely not pretty. But, this isn't about some dumb rock, it's about how this family was messed up long before I decided to shine a light on it. I pulled out my phone, and my mom, already on edge, asked, "What are you doing now?" I told her, "I'm sending this whole mess of a folder to the attorney I hired last week, and while I'm at it, also ceasing the bank's fraud department and child protective services. Just in case, someone needs to ask why my kid's identity was being used without my permission." Emily suddenly jumped up like I was the crazy one, saying, "You're insane." I looked her straight in the eye and said, "No, I'm just done with all this." Then Max, my kid, came over, holding the real iPhone I got him, still unopened. He grabbed my hand and asked, "Can we go, Dad?" Man, his voice was so steady, so trusting, it almost broke me. I nodded, and we headed for the door. That's when Dad's voice rang out, desperate, "If you walk out of here, don't come back." I stopped, turned to face them, Emily, her husband, my mom, and said, "You guys already made that choice when you laughed at my son. I'm not your punching bag, your backup wallet, or your scapegoat. I'm his dad, and that's the only title that matters to me." We left, and the door closed with this dull thud. I bet the silence inside that house was deafening, but outside, under the cloudy sky, my son looked up at me and said something I'll never forget, "I'm glad you're my dad." It didn't take long for the fallout to start. The very next morning, a text from my sister, "You went too far. Dad's furious. Mom hasn't stopped crying." I ignored it. By noon, my inbox pinged with an official email from the fraud department. They were starting an investigation. By 3 p.m., I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Detective Amanda Ross from the Financial Crimes Division wanting to schedule a formal statement about my son's identity theft. Boom. They thought I'd cool down, let things slide, but nope, not this time. I was done swallowing the hurt, I was making it my weapon. Within 48 hours, I filed a police report and submitted every scrap of evidence I had. Bank statements tied to Max's social security number, screenshots of the forged withdrawal from his college fund, and even video footage from the birthday party showing the exact moment my dad humiliated him. They laughed at my kid and stole from him, now we were heading to court. The family's silence lasted about a week. Then Mom called, but I let it go to voicemail. Her voice was frantic, words tumbling over each other, like she was trying to outrun the truth. "Honey, please, let's fix this internally. Family doesn't take family to court over mistakes. Your father's not well, Emily's a mess. Just come over, let's talk." I didn't even finish listening. By Sunday, a formal letter from my dad's lawyer came in, threatening to countersue for defamation of character. The nerve almost made me laugh. You can't defame someone who handed a rock to his grandson and said he wasn't good enough. I called my lawyer right away. "Let them try," she said. We had enough evidence to crush them in court, and crush was putting it lightly. The trial was set for mid-June. Civil court, fraud, identity theft, misuse of a minor's information. But it wasn't just about justice, I wanted the truth out there, public record and all. The first day of court was packed. Emily looked like she'd seen a ghost, Dad showed up all dressed up, trying to keep his calm facade, and Mom was in sunglasses indoors, classic drama. Their lawyer tried to brush it off as a family misunderstanding. "Mr. Turner," he said with a smile, "don't you think this has gone too far?" I leaned in, my voice clear and firm. My son's name and future were used like currency by people who mocked him. "You're right, it has gone too far. That's exactly why I'm here." The judge nodded, "Let's proceed." And we did. Day 2, my lawyer rolled out all the financial evidence. Day 3, the banker who handled the bogus withdrawal took the stand. Day 4, surveillance footage showed Emily marching into the bank, signing my name, even smiling. She tried to claim I gave verbal permission, but I had audio recordings that said otherwise. She cracked on the stand, tried to play the sympathy card, but the judge wasn't buying it. Then it was Dad's turn. Under oath, they asked, "Did you open credit cards using your grandson's information?" He hesitated, then, "I don't recall." Wrong move, because the bank confirmed his phone number was used during verification calls, his signature matched, and his address was on file. Then, I dropped the bomb, an old voicemail from him, "It's just some cards, for God's sake. He's a kid, it's not like he's using the credit. What's the big deal?" The courtroom fell silent, and even my mom seemed like she wanted the ground to swallow her up. When the final ruling came, Emily was ordered to repay $2,200 to Max's college fund, plus fines. Dad got fined, placed under investigation for elder fraud, and identity theft, too. The judge recommended that it be forwarded to the DA. I was awarded $25,000 in damages, but more importantly, the truth was finally out there, loud and clear. So the court case was a big deal. The judge decided to seal Max's credit, which was a huge relief because it meant he was protected. As we walked out of the courthouse, it was clear to everyone in there who my family really was. Suddenly, Emily ran after me, furious. "You've ruined this family," she snapped. "Do you even know what you've done?" I stayed calm and told her, "No, you wrecked it. I just pointed it out." She didn't have a comeback, just stood there looking like she was about to lose it. Max tugged at my sleeve, asking, "Are we done, Dad?" I smiled at him and said, "Almost, buddy, but there's one more thing." Later, I took Max to the Apple store and let him pick out some AirPods with a cool case. As we left, he said, "It's not about the stuff," and I replied, "I know. It's about respect." This was after our family drama had played out in court 3 months ago. I thought things would calm down, maybe even become peaceful, but boy, was I wrong. At first, life was quiet. I focused on Max and starting fresh. I opened a new college fund, got him into Aikido classes, and started reading with him every night. He was laughing more and sleeping better, and the tense look he always had started to disappear. But, old problems have a way of popping back up. The first sign came when my mom called at 6 a.m. I saw her name on my phone and just knew it wasn't going to be good. "Your father," she said, her voice shaking, "he's in the hospital. Heart attack. They need to do a procedure, but we can't afford it now. The court took too much from us. Please, he's asking for you and Max." I didn't respond. She added, "He regrets it, but I still didn't go." About a week later, I got a letter from my aunt, the one family member who stayed out of the drama. Inside was a newspaper clipping: longtime Councilman Richard Turner hospitalized after cardiac complications, family struggling financially after recent legal troubles. There was a GoFundMe link, too, aiming to raise $40,000 but only showing $3,200. The top comment read, "Hope the son finds it in his heart to forgive," with a donation from Emily for $10 saying, "I hope he gets a second chance as a father, as a grandfather." It was so pathetic. Then came a call from an unknown number. It was my dad. At first, I wasn't going to answer, but then I got curious, maybe even hopeful for closure. "Hey, son," he sounded weak and worn out. "I can't sleep. I keep thinking about what I did to Max, the teasing. I thought I was being funny, but I was really being cruel, like always." Silence. "I don't deserve forgiveness, but if you ever showed up, I'd know it wasn't over. That maybe I still have a chance." I took a deep breath. "Max made a custom phone case at school," I said. "It says, 'Only good boys get toys.'" My dad managed a weak chuckle. I asked Max once what that meant, and he said, "It means bad grandpas don't have grandsons anymore." Then I just hung up. A week later, I found myself back in the old neighborhood, where we used to hang out for Max's infamous birthday prank. I saw my family, or what was left of it, Dad in a wheelchair, Mom next to him, and Emily handing out flyers that said, "Help Richard Turner. Family matters most." I watched them from across the parking lot. Emily spotted me and ran over, looking hopeful. "You came. I knew you weren't as cold as you pretended," she said. I didn't say anything, just stood there. "We were wrong, all of us. But we're still family, right?" "No," I replied. "We were more like a cult where love was conditional and money was king. And now your God, status, control, image, has failed." She looked stunned. "This isn't about money," she tried to argue. "Then why does your flyer have a QR code instead of an apology?" I shot back. She flinched. I turned and headed to my car where Max was waiting. Emily tried to wave at him, but he just stared back like she was a stranger. That's when I realized Max had learned faster than I ever did. We drove off, and in my rearview mirror, I caught my dad trying to stand up, reaching out like he wanted to pull me back in time. But I was already gone. That night, Max and I chilled in our cozy living room, munching on popcorn and watching a movie. I asked him, "Do you miss them?" He thought for a moment and said, "I miss who they could have been, but I'm glad I've got you." It hit me hard. Max rested his head on my shoulder, and I wrapped my arm around him. For the first time, I didn't feel like the disappointment or the failure. I was the dad who showed up, said enough, and finally broke the cycle. I didn't lose my family, I built a new one.